Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Bay's Wednesday morning event series. This is our fifth, so we're week 6 of lockdown. This is our fifth broadcast. Time flies when you're locked in your house, as I was saying to someone. I'm your host this morning, Ian Gardner. I am a co-founder at Innovation Bay, also a VC and an investment partner at Eucalyptus Ventures. Also in the Innovation Bay team, we've got Faden Stow, who's my co-founder, Shan Priest, our general manager, and Claire Tester, who's our event manager. So welcome. Thank you for joining this morning. We hope that you're keeping safe, sane, and indoors. So what we're doing here, every week we're assembling a group of formidable guests to share their experience coping with COVID-19 and beyond with the community. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in so far. If you've missed any of the previous panels, you can watch them all on our YouTube channel. And keep an eye out in the Twitter feed. I think Shan's going to try and post the link to the last week's session in the chat now. So also, we're looking for hashtag suggestions for this series. So if you've got any, just stick them in the chat room and we will pick them up. So we're taking a break next week. There's Blackbird and Startmate are putting on a conference called Giants, which is on at the same time as us, and we really want to support them. We love what they're doing, and it's a pretty cool conference. So I think it is at the Blackbird and Startmate website. You'll find it there. So some fantastic guests on there. So, but the week after, we're back with a very special guest. We got the privilege of hosting an in-depth conversation with an entrepreneur, an investor, and yes, he happened to be a politician. He was the 29th Prime Minister of Australia from 2015 to 2018, I think, Malcolm Turnbull. So don't miss that one. Pretty excited about that. So that will be this time slot on the 6th of May. So now we couldn't do any of this without the support of our sponsors. So we really want to say a big thank you to AWS, IAG, Farmark Ventures, KPMG, High Growth Ventures, and Macquarie Bank. They support Innovation Bay, which we love, and they do a lot of amazing work around the whole startup ecosystem. So a huge thank you to them. Now, before we introduce this fantastic panel, I'll let you all know how the session's going to run. We've got a few prepared questions which have come in, and also from the registration, there was a few questions came in, which was great. There will be live Q&A, so if you want to ask a question, there is a Q&A function on the Zoom page, which you'll see at the bottom. The chat room's also running, so please get in and engage. Just be nice and sensible. We won't take questions from the chat, so just the ones that are submitted via Q&A. So, all right, let me stop my screen share and we can meet the panel. So yes, let me start the intro. So Amanda, in no particular order, but Amanda, you are first. So head of High Growth Ventures, which is KPMG's dedicated startup practice. You've worked with hundreds of founders, helping scale their business and build their high performance capabilities. So welcome, Amanda. That's a chance to test your audio as well, by the way. You're on mute. All right, well, that's fine. I know you're going to, your audio works because we tested earlier. Craig Davis, co-founder of Sendle, professor at UTS Business School, mentor, advisor. You teach Google's Search Inside Yourself leadership program, and you do a bunch of different things. So wonderful guy. So welcome, Craig.
Morning, Ian.
Yeah, thank you for testing the audio, Amanda.
Show off.
Yeah, there you go. Now we've tested Amanda. Jane Martino, founder of Smiling Mind, based in Melbourne. Smiling Mind is Australia's #1 meditation app. You're also an investor, board director, startup advisor. Yeah, been involved in the sector for ages, so it's fantastic to have you as well today, Jane. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Nick Crocker, another Melbourneite. That's probably not the right word, but general partner at Blackbird Ventures. You've invested in Culture Amp, Nura, XY Sense, Be Applied, Morse Micro, tons of other ones. So before that, you were a serial entrepreneur, founding Sessions and We Are Hunted. So yeah, welcome to our panel. Are we still got Nick? Yes, here he is. Sorry, my Zoom slide just showed you. Right, let's get into this. We're pretty excited about this morning. You know, we have all been locked up at home. This is a very different way. You know, I sent an email out to a few people yesterday and I admitted that I needed a hug. I'm missing people. I love my family, but I sometimes want to get out and meet my friends and colleagues. So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle. So we want to try and get into that and just see what examples there are. So, Nick, I'm going to start with you. And no particular reason, and I am actually going to open this question and most of these first questions up to the rest of the panel. But have you seen examples of great leadership in this crisis? And it could be from the Blackbird portfolio. Just give us some examples of people who have done this well over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, every founder right now is going through some form of existential crisis and ripping up the plan that they had for this year and rewriting a new one and rewriting that plan with incredible uncertainty for what will come next. And it's a really stressful time to be a founder. So I think anyone being a founder right now is in their own way, dealing with incredible leadership challenges. You asked for great examples. I think Didier at Culture Amp has really been incredible. Culture Amp has really quickly spun up a COVID wellness or COVID readiness survey that now hundreds of companies around the world are using to track how ready they are to help their teams manage through this. And they've done that really quickly and in a time where people really want to know how their teams are feeling and are not getting to see them every day. I think Culture Amp's done a spectacular job as a company in terms of being a leader. For people that know Culture Amp, it's also trying to be the first culture-first company at scale. So that comes with a burden of responsibility to treat the team in a certain way. And so watching Didier lead the team internally has been pretty inspiring. And I think people on the call will want to know the sort of tactics. And one tactic that I have seen really work at Culture Amp, so they have 400 plus people around the world, New York, San Francisco, London, Melbourne. So disparate time zones, disparate offices, 100% work from home. So Didier has been recording a video, 5 minutes-ish in length every single day, sharing it with the whole team, keeping everyone really up to date on what's happening. And that's been incredibly effective. Now in a smaller team, you can just when you're in the same time zone, you don't have to do the video. The video kind of helps to span the time zones. But I think Didier's really led, and he's led in a very Culture Amp way of transparent and vulnerable. Another tactic I loved, I saw Rory from Propeller created a Slack channel internally where he got his sales team to just start dumping notes from every call that they were having on the ground with customers so that his team could really get a feel for how their customers were feeling. And I think that you can often, as a CEO, fret about the level of transparency, but I loved how he just moved into this and said, look, if you're hearing bad things or if you're hearing nervousness from our customers, let's make everyone in the team aware of that.
Yeah, and that's such a simple thing you can do as well.
Yeah, and so those from the Blackbird portfolio, I think those are two examples that tactically I've seen work really well. Internally at Blackbird, we actually ran a wellbeing survey. So in Culture Amp, you can run wellbeing focused surveys. And it was the simplest thing, but one of the big call outs that we realized when we did the survey is we actually didn't have a COVID wellbeing policy. So there were things that weren't clear, like, can I get another, can I spend a few $100s to get a new screen for for my computer at home, things like that. And so we just saw immediately by using the survey that we're able to just identify a list of things that people needed, or for example, people who are homeschooling, not knowing whether they should take paid time off for the homeschooling or not. And so just being really clear that if you're homeschooling, you don't have to take paid time off. So it's just, I think internally at Blackbird, the thing we learned was just absolute clarity on what we were expecting of people, and not to assume that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in on that with examples? All right. Well, let's Amanda, I might jump to you then. So, like, we put out a survey a couple of weeks ago, looking at cash flow and runway, ability to raise capital, losing customers. I mean, those were really the top three concerns that Aussie startups were talking about. Are you seeing? I mean, I guess you will be seeing those trends, but anything else you're seeing? How are founders feeling? What are they most worried about? I mean, can you just give from, because you see a lot of companies and work with them day to day. So what are you seeing out there in terms of the biggest challenges?
Oh, look, I think the ones that you've mentioned are the biggest ones, but I think really it's just that we're seeing such a huge range of reactions to what's happening. I think, I think it's important to acknowledge there are founders and their teams that are doing it incredibly tough right now. And I mean, if your business was struggling before COVID-19, then it's really likely that situation is going to be exacerbated. If you're planning to raise capital, then that maybe needs to be put on hold, which puts additional stress on the businesses. And then founders are really trying to work out how they're going to make it through the next 12, 18 months around injection of capital. Obviously, if you're in a startup in an industry that's been pretty much decimated, whether it be travel, etc., then we've got a couple of companies in the travel area that are just looking to either close their doors or have to do a serious pivot. So, as Nick said, I mean, there's some founders that are going through incredible stress, or most, but some more than others. And I mean, struggles with mental health and wellness permeate every industry, but statistics show the world of tech is hit particularly hard. So, of course, we worry for a lot of those founders, but I think one of the things we're doing really well in industry is talking about it. There's a range of initiatives out there at the moment, which is great in terms of these podcasts. There's these newly formed peer groups coming up, and I think that's really positive. I think on the other side, there are some sectors and startups that are absolutely thriving in this time, like because of COVID-19. And I had a walk with one of them this morning, actually, and I think he's experiencing a sense of sort of survivor guilt, which in a way I think is a bit of a shame because, I think it's times like these we actually celebrate the wins, and there are a few out there. And over the last few months, I think we've seen the last month a real shift in the way that founders are feeling. So if you think 4 weeks ago, you're in this sort of there was more panic and a disbelief. And then I think some of the founders we're working with, I saw such an incredible speed with how they moved to think about what have I got to do? So how do I, then it was around cash. How do I preserve cash? How do I get access to cash? Founders looking to reduce costs. So we're working with a lot of founders around cost reduction. How do they access stimulus packages, which is probably the number one thing we're doing at the moment. R&D is now top of the really R&D and government grants are sort of super hot. And people, I suppose we're seeing people reduce the size of their team, reduced hours, and let consultants go. And then that all sort of happened. And then 2 weeks ago, really we're forced to work from home. And then those things really start to slow down. And I think some interesting things have come out of that. I think this sort of combination of less resources, less cash, less social and physical contact is changing. We're sort of seeing it changing the way we lead. Like a lot of the founders are communicating more with their teams. They're far more transparent. It seems a lot more honest and very real. And there is a real need for more connection. And I think because no one has the answers, because no one's experienced this before, there seems to be sort of greater sharing, less ego, and sort of way more curiosity about how to solve this. So I think, out of that, there's some really interesting behaviors we'll see. And I'm sort of interested to see what continues out of that, as we go along.
And you mentioned, when you say no one's experienced it before, in micro, most people have been through, shitty times and good times. So, but what's unique here is that everyone's going through it right now at the same time. And often that can get, you're not seeing headlines about it. If it wasn't for this, global pandemic going on and people dying all over the place and all this tragic stuff happening, then I think these, the mental health effect would be bubbling more to the surface. I got a friend who runs a pharmacy chain, and they were saying that, prescriptions for Prozac and, some of those other mental health drugs are through the roof. Like they'd never seen anything like it before. And another friend runs a off-license chain or a bottle shop, and he said sales are up 40-50% in that. So it's a combination.
And I think I think the concerning thing about that is that we're only 4 weeks in. And what happens, this is a very sharp. The thing with COVID, I think that is sort of different. I remember I was in the US when the GFC hit, and that it just didn't feel as quick. This is hit so fast. It's so hard. Everyone's affected. And I think, it's really thinking about, we're more than 4 weeks in, but if this continues, not just the virus itself, it's actually the economic its challenges all come from that. That's not going to turn around anytime soon. And so it's really around how do we actually manage ourselves. I'm sure Craig and Jane will sort of talked through this as well, but how do we actually manage ourselves through this? So what's the best way through?
I do want to get to Craig and Jen. So Craig, I might just jump over to you. So I mean, and this kind of was a question that came in from one of our audience. So Justin Williams, another buddy of ours from Melbourne. So how do you balance being a mindful, high EQ leader with, at the same time as making hard decisions like firing people at the same time as rallying the troops? I mean, it's always tough being a CEO, but you kind of got to wear this, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde face where, you're doing this really tough stuff, but you've got to stay up for the rest of the people. Any advice for that?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks, Justin. It's a great question. Look, my first response to that, it might sound counterintuitive, but I think leaders have a responsibility to take care of themselves first. And what I mean by that is if you're not looking after yourself, you're not going to be anything like at your best when you're dealing with other people. And however you're showing up, whether that's good or bad or really kind of unfortunate and ugly, that's infectious. And much better to be infecting people in a good way than in a bad way. So, I've learned this lesson a few times over in my life, both professionally and personally. At one stage, I've got 3 kids. Thankfully still got 3 kids, but one of them went through a very tough time and it went on for some years. And, my wife and I recognized, thankfully early, that the way to kind of manage that was to take good care of ourselves first. If you're not looking after yourself, if you're not healthy, if you're not strong, you can't make tough decisions and you can't be there in the right ways for the people who need you. And those same lessons, I think, transfer themselves easily into the startup space. You've got a responsibility to the people around you, to your team, and you've got to show up at your best. So you've got to do the work, you've got to eat well, you've got to sleep well, you've got to drink lots of water and not too much other stuff, and you've got to exercise. And those are just foundational. And you start shortchanging yourself on those things and you won't be in a position to help people well. And you won't make the right kind of decision. So Justin, you were asking about making tough calls. Taking care of yourself and putting yourself in a strong position only helps you make those decisions in a better way, and helps you deliver bad news to people in a better way. I think it was Ben Horowitz who said in his book, you can't let someone keep their job, but you can let them keep their respect. And I think that the way you handle those tough decisions, the way that you treat people, the way that you communicate, the way you support them, makes an enormous difference to them. Yeah. And to the company and, the health and welfare and the ongoing prospects of that company.
Yeah, no, those are very good insights. Jane, I might jump over to you. So, I mean, you have founded Smiling Mind. So, #1 meditation app in Australia. So, I mean, this was, it's been going for, how long has it been going actually? Just before I ask the question.
About 8 years now.
Years. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe just talk about how that all came about and, in a bit more granular detail, how you and your team have been responding to, the increase in demand. Because I think you've launched a product pretty quickly and you've done a few pivots. So yeah, just tell us a bit about Smiling Mind.
Yeah, I mean, Smiling Mind came about because fundamentally I exited my first business, and during that time I juggled growing a business, having 3 children in 3 years, and found meditation was the only thing that really kept my feet on the ground. And as Craig said, helped me be a much better, not only a leader at work, and much more mindful and self-aware. And you have to have that self-awareness to know when you are looking after yourself and what else you need to do. And I guess that's the point, is that we have to have that awareness that we are perhaps reacting to things in a way that we shouldn't be, or we are feeling a bit strung out, in the first place. And meditation for me was certainly the best way to tap into that and grow that level of self-awareness. And my thinking with Smiling Mind was, well, if I'd had that tool from a very young age and that was just embedded in how I lived my life, kind of similar to the way we look at nutrition and exercise, that would be one of the biggest gifts that I could have ever given myself. And certainly if I could be part of giving that gift to everyone else, it was kind of a no-brainer problem to solve. So That was really, we probably 8 years ago, mindfulness and meditation was not in the vernacular like it is now. And I'm hopefully we have been part of that. I mean, that was always the goal. It's a not-for-profit set up to help, really from a very young age, people meditate through curricular activities at schools, but also we provide programs for all age groups, including adult. And that's actually our biggest cohort of users. And most recently, our usage is up about 500%. We have the kind of statistics that most VCs would be throwing money at us if we were a commercial enterprise. So yeah, we've tipped over 5 million downloads. We have over 500,000 monthly active users, and we've never seen growth in usage like we have in the last 4 weeks. And it actually is growing on average between 100 and 150% day on day. I think also because of that, we've always had that organic referral, but I think that's actually just growing more and more through things like this and us being able to provide the service. And obviously our programs are free as well, which has always been a really important part of our philosophy, is accessibility, and getting all of the programs and the support to people and those preemptive mental health tools out to as many people as we can.
It's amazing. But how do you fund the business?
Initially through philanthropic donation, but now we have a workplace program. So our workplace program, which we've rolled out with sort of major corporates, including IBM globally, that funds probably about 50% of our organisation. And then we have a lot of other sort of corporate partnerships and also, donations from our community and philanthropy of people that really believe in what we're doing and how much our community needs us. And I think, this is COVID is a really good example of the one thing I'm proud of is that people are like, yes, alcohol sales are up and there are things that of course we all, lean towards, but overall, like the community are reaching out to these really healthy, positive tools. And I think that's super encouraging, and we're set up to help companies, individuals, people at home and at school.
And Jane, have you got a view to the future? So like in, a year's time, you're up 500% now, but how sticky do you think that's going to be? Like when things return to normal, using quote marks, whatever that is?
Yeah, I think what we found is our engagement certainly grows over time. And the one thing that's helped with that is the way we use our data and we see where the needs are within the community. And one thing that we've noticed probably in the last 12 to 18 months is our sleep programs have absolutely the highest usage of all programs. And we have all kinds, hundreds of thousands of hours of content. And so we then pivot and quite quickly, like when we spun up the COVID program in about 10 days called Thrive Inside, we quite quickly respond to that. So that's the way we really continue to drive engagement and make sure that we can really, answer the community's needs and keep them sticky and engaged. But we found that the most successful ways, and we're probably also looking at different ways to deliver. Thrive Inside has a podcast that will be running, Instagram live meditation. So we're expanding our delivery methodology as well.
Right, let's keep moving along. I want to talk about the support that your peer group can provide. And one of the things Innovation Bay has been doing the last little while is to bring groups together. And I've experienced it. I'm in a CEO club called YPO, so it's and that's a lot of that is about getting together in a peer group. We've done it with the Summit Club, which is for Series A founders. We did it in Micro last year with Community Coffee. So after some of our events, we'd bring small groups together. And the power of that is astonishing. I think, Startmate as well. And Nick, I'm going to ask you about this stuff, but Startmate has been doing this with their alumni program and with the actual cohorts, just the power of bringing people together. Now, I read one of the blog posts you did around a framework or a group called The Elephants. So I just want to ask you about that. You know, what is the elephants, and what is the power of bringing people together like this do?
Yeah, that post is old now. It's almost 7 years old, and I wrote it after I'd been doing the elephants for 3 years. The elephants is really just about finding 2 or 3 people in your life that you can share incredibly openly and honestly with what you are wanting to achieve on a 10+ year horizon, and to sort of have that vision interrogated and pushed and prodded and tested, to share that vision for where you want to be 10 years from now, and then to work backwards to the things that you would be doing 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 1 month from now, one week from now, in order to get to your 10-year goal. The group acts as support along the way in a sort of positive sense, and then they also act as the accountability. You know, you said this is what you wanted to do, but I'm seeing you act in this way, and that doesn't seem to be in line with what you said. So it's got that really powerful accountability element to it. It's a really profound thing to have people around you that you can trust, who you can share your dreams and fears with, and then to share the journey along the path of pursuing those. So I'll share the link in a second. It's been really, really powerful for me personally, but probably even more inspiring has been seeing other elephants groups pop up. Michael Batko, who's the CEO of Startmate, just shared last week a blog post about his experience with it. It's just a very special thing to have a group of people around you that care about you and know who you really are and really want to be.
Oh, sorry, I had to click the wrong button. Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge of being a startup founder is that most people don't understand it. I mean, your staff don't understand it, your investors don't understand it, your board don't understand it, your other half at home. I mean, it's just, you know, it's putting your head in a metal bucket and hitting it with a hammer every day. So the people that do understand it are your peers. You know, and I do want to sort of dig a little bit deeper in this, because I think it's such a powerful thing. Anyone else? I mean, Craig or Amanda, maybe. I mean, yeah, Amanda, I might jump to you in this. I mean, this, because you've done this as well at KPMG. So can you give us your perspective on why bringing peer groups, especially of startup founders, together is so important?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, actually, we've done it through our founder programs, and it's funny when you, and Craig's part of that as well, when you not sell the program, when you're talking about the program to founders, it's hard, because actually the biggest benefit they'll get is the fact that they're in a peer group and we put them in these groups, but they don't see that as the biggest benefit at the beginning. It's always after the program they go, the best thing I got out of that was that I'm part of this group, and it's this thing. And actually there's a group in the US called Reboot, which is Jerry Colonna, and he has his peer groups are called circles. And the analogy that they use for those, which I don't know if everyone's heard, but I heard it the other day, I thought it was lovely, and they say it's around those emperor penguins, and when they go to the Antarctic and it gets so cold, they form a group, and there's always one that's faced outwards and they alternate. And it's this really lovely sort of image in my mind of that's what those circles are. I mean, together, they have to stay together to stay alive, but one is always sort of out in the cold. And I think that's the greatest way to see those peer groups. I mean, it's just, as Nick said, it's an incredibly powerful thing to be in a group where you are not judged, and you have, you know, they use the word peerness, which is not penis, peerness, which is, which is, I think the word means, you know, really having people, like you said, in your group who, it doesn't matter the age or anything, it's about how they share that experience of being a founder. And I think, like EY, I think in this, the rules around these groups are that no one's actually allowed, there's no shoulds, or I did this so you should. It's all really focused on listening. And I think that's the really important thing about these groups, is because in real life, we often jump in to take someone's pain away or to solve the problem. And I think in these groups, it's honoring that that person really knows the answer inside of themselves. It's helping them get to that. Yeah. And I think that's why they're super valuable. And I think right now couldn't be more valuable, really.
Yeah, and part of the challenge we've seen and I've experienced is just this concept of trust. I mean, you cannot do this properly unless there's trust and, you know, confidentiality, and getting to know people in a way that that actually is meaningful. And that means you've got to invest in it. I mean, it takes time and it takes effort and it's hard. Anyone else? I mean, I think this is such an important point, but Craig or Jane, do you want to jump in, Craig?
Yeah, look, I just a couple of things. I think, first of all, you've got to be a little bit nutty to be a startup founder. So your thing about putting a bucket on your head and hitting yourself with a hammer, for sure, it takes an extraordinary amount of effort and will and vision, and it's lonely. And for people who've got co-founders, it's arguably a little less lonely, but some people who are doing it 100% on their own, it's super duper hard. And any opportunity to connect with other people who are in that same kind of nutty position is super valuable and affirming. So I've seen it, I've been to a couple of your Summit Club events, Ian, and when I talk to people there about, hey, why are you taking time out to do this? In a heartbeat, the answer is pretty consistently the same, which is that because I love hanging out with other people who are in the same position as me. I learn so much from these other people. It's both reassuring and it's massively stimulating. And I think that people feel that they can be themselves. And so we talk about being authentic and being honest and being transparent, and those are all vital skills in your business. But I think what's lovely about these opportunities is you can let go of having to do that in such a deliberate way and just be transparent and just be authentic and just be honest, because you're not trying to impress anyone. Yeah. And I think that any opportunity to do that is that's an essential service to the startup community.
Yeah. Jane, I might jump to you. I mean, look, we touched on this a lot. I mean, it is stressful being a startup founder at all times, but it's particularly stressful at the moment just because of the uncertainty and the, for many, the revenue and cash and staff trauma that's going on. So, but, in practical sense, any top tips for how people, founders, staff members, whoever it is, how can they look after their own well-being and by extension, the well-being of their teams?
Yeah, I think, and from the outset of the call, the one thing I would say that I think is really encouraging for this whole group and everyone on the call is that as founders are the absolute best people, and they have all the best attributes to really cope with something like COVID. Like if you look at compared to so many other industries and so many other roles, founders have sort of micro COVIDs happen on and off throughout their career. And I think, that's something certainly that I have seen with the companies I'm working with is that I just couldn't feel more proud of the fact that, they really used all the skills that they have and that innate sense of being curious and a problem solver to really step up. I think to Craig's point, it's whether, and I know I've been in this seat and certainly guilty of this, that as a founder you feel responsible and you just keep going and going and going until you kind of have nothing left, and you worry about everyone else and your team and the business and your investors, and you're kind of way down the list, particularly if you have family and other relationships as well. So I think there's a couple of things. It is that prioritization, but the thing is that you're told that, and inherently that, but it's actually taking steps to do that. So something that I found really helpful is actually setting aside diary time, and actually putting it in my diary like I'd put a meeting in my diary. So and whether that's just an hour, at a time that suits you. I prefer first thing in the morning. So, when I started really turning around the way I was sort of behaving and prioritizing my health and well-being was certainly when I started my day earlier than I normally would, and I made that commitment, and I kept that hour earlier without the kids or without any other demands to really look and get a routine that was good for me. So things people find helpful, and everyone's different, and you've got to experiment and find things that work for you. But it's certainly, some form of exercise, and using, there's a lot of free applications, especially at the moment, where you can download them and even do 15 to 20 minutes of just movement. It doesn't have to be a commitment of a long time. And then, at least a 5 to 10 minute meditation. And then also some other sort of reflection or journal time or some kind of reading that you feel, or listening that you feel really enriches you. There's a couple of different people that I've sort of read and followed that have really good advice on putting together these types of routines. One is Aubrey Marcus. It's called Own Your Day. And the other one is the 5 a.m. Club. Robin Sharma, I think it is. So they're two people that a couple of their books actually really give you, I found, really good step-by-step advice on how to embed a really great morning routine.
Yeah. What about you, Nick? Any top tips from Blackbird or the portfolio? Sorry, that's my doorbell. For practical outcomes, what can founders do beyond exercise, meditation, and eating well that might help?
I mean, that's 3 of the 4. The other one is trying to get sleep. I think the only thing that protects you in this this time is when you have rituals. So the problem is that if you're relying on motivation to do some of these things, your motivation is going to go up and down. You'll be tired at the end of the day. So having these rituals that turn into habits that just become almost automatic is really key. So Janie just called out getting up early, which isn't possible for everyone. I think there's 2 kinds of people in the world, morning people and night people. And if you're one, you can't be the other. I really strongly believe that. But I'm like Janie, it's morning for me, and I have to get up an hour before the family to have that time. And I have had to it was interesting. I had a coffee with a AFL player earlier this year. I was talking to him about his routines. And he said he's the most powerful one is he wakes up at 5:40 a.m. every day, walks 8 minutes to the beach, jumps in the ocean, comes home and meditates. And it was really interesting this is someone that has 2 Brownlow medals, is probably the best AFL player in the world right now. To see him talking about these rituals and the power of meditation, even for him as an elite athlete, I've actually found quite inspiring. So that early morning meditation is one. And then the thing with sleep is it's really hard to do when you're stressed because you wake up and the first thought that you have is, I have to fire someone tomorrow, or I have to have a hard customer call tomorrow. And so I think the only thing that can protect you is these rituals that train your brain that now is the time to sleep. So no phones in the room, drink tea, read fiction. Some of these rituals that you can run before you do the behavior that you want to actually do are absolutely key to relying on them, because as we all know, when we get stressed and flustered, our good behaviors go out the window, and then it compounds, and suddenly we're trying to deal with these difficult days without some of those really foundational behaviors. So I'm always interested when I talk to founders is what's the thing that they do before they do the thing that they want to do, and really honing in on those triggers and those rituals is actually the key, I think, sometimes to locking in great habits.
Yeah, that's great advice, I think so. All right, let me ask a slightly different question. So, and I guess I'll let anyone jump in this one. So, moment of greatest uncertainty throughout this pandemic so far, and what has helped you push through it. So who wants to talk to that one? Amanda.
Sorry, I'm getting up, Nick. Well, I'd say for me it was probably just the beginning of March when this all started to happen, and we actually, Blackbird Ventures got additional investment from KPMG in December, which meant we expanded the team quite dramatically, as Craig would know, because Craig was working part of the team, and changed our business model and did all this sort of work. So we're very BD heavy, and which was really exciting. And I think it was about the first week of March, I woke up and went, all the people I put on in January, where this is going to last a while, we're going to be pretty impacted. So the decision to very quickly change direction and make those people redundant was extremely difficult for myself and the team. And I think out of that, you know, one of the things I've sort of been focusing on, one of the things I've noticed is how I feel different about leadership, because my team's smaller. We're so impacted by it. There's no me sitting at the top. Not that I ever was, our structure is very flat, but me sort of thinking I know anything anymore, or like, it's this time to be, in my mind, fully transparent, acknowledge the fact that all of their sort of friends who they were and peers have gone. And I think people's mind goes to, oh God, what's wrong with the business? Am I next? All those sorts of things. I think being really conscious of that and bringing the team in and communicating every day, the things Nick's saying, you know, we do videos every day, and you're doing them all through the day, but that first one where you're checking in and
I think we've lost Amanda, which looks interesting. All right, well,
I can jump in, Ian, because I was inspired to say something on this. I think, this might sound all a bit kind of meta, but I think the greatest uncertainty for me is just the volume of uncertainty in my relationship with it. And I think that what a situation like this requires of us all is to understand what we can fight and deal with and what we can't, what we can control and influence and what we can't. And, I woke up this morning to see, or yesterday morning rather, to see that the oil price was negative. Now, there's nothing, and maybe that's a good thing, but anyway, there's nothing I can do about that. So I don't, it's not something that I'm going to spend energy trying to deal with. And I think that managing our energy and applying it to things where there is uncertainty but where we can have an influence or have an effect is important, and not putting our energy and our attention into things where we just can't. And so one of the things, one of the habits that I've started to develop is I've started to not read too much news because it was just draining. It was exhausting, and there's other more important things that I should be doing and can do, and that will actually have a material effect.
Yeah. Amanda, are you back with us now? Not sure what happened.
Out at a really weird moment.
Yeah, I don't know, the internet gremlins. Yeah, look, it would sort of jumping through everyone else, I think. So I think you're close to to the end of that. Jane, anything from you? Moment of greatest uncertainty, and what's helped you?
I think for me, it's probably just getting used to not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, I'm also consulting at the moment, so it's been really interesting seeing the amount of things that people have just put on hold. So I feel like everything that I am working on, or most things, are just in some kind of holding pattern, which is very unusual for me. Like, I'm used to working with lots of momentum and moving through things really quickly. So that's a huge adjustment. And to be honest, I think if I hadn't got some of those sort of rituals in place, I would be really struggling with that. But like with everything, I think there are lots of new things that you learn out of these processes. And I love Craig's advice about control, because I think another sometimes negative trait, but it's also very positive, is a lot of founders and people that like to lead are control freaks. And so, that they are used to doing everything they can to keep things on track. But there are just so many things in this situation where that's just not possible. So letting go of that, and actually that in itself can cause a lot of distress. So for me, it's just when I feel like a sense of worry, or, I can feel that rising, I actually just take myself away from whatever I'm thinking about or reading, and actually that's when I take the dogs for a walk or spend some time with the kids, and actually just get my feet back on the ground. So get out of my head and back into the moment. So that's probably the one thing I would say that I'm really leaning on heavily. And whenever the rumination does start, and that feeling of I don't know what's happening and I can't predict what's happening, even more so than usual, I just do something to get me back into the now. And when, for a lot of people, that's exercise, surfing, gardening, get your hands in the soil, and anything you can do to, or cooking. It's awesome to see a lot of people, cooking and things like that. So actually just take yourself away, get into that moment, and then you'll come back at it. It'll still be there, but you'll probably feel a bit different.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, look, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure we've got get through a few more questions here. So now this one came in from Mary Butler and Amanda and Nick. I think this is probably focused at you. Do you think that founders are underestimating the importance of managing remote teams? Now, the reason this came about was the Innovation Bay survey report came out, and managing remote teams was the bottom of the list in terms of founders concerned. So yeah, who wants to take that one? Amanda, let's jump to you first.
Oh God, I don't know if I actually am the right one. Actually, I was going to throw to Craig. Craig, are you probably better at doing that one than I am?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Well, look, a couple of thoughts on this. I guess it's probably worth saying that Sendle was kind of remote from day one. So, you know, it just, as it happened, James and I were in Sydney, Sean was in Adelaide, so all co-founders, Sean's a CTO. He's got a whole swag of kids. He's not leaving Adelaide. And so we had to get our heads around that. And our support team was offshore in Manila when we were in a position to have a support team. And so from the beginning, people have been distributed. And so we've had to figure out how to work remotely. And one of the things that I think has worked really well is sort of leveling out the experience. So if you're in a situation where you've got a few people in one place and other people at some distance, you have to make sure that the experience for everyone is the same. So one of the good things now, I guess, is now that everything's held together via Zoom and Slack, and everyone is suddenly remote, everyone is having that shared experience. So for some people that's familiar, for some people that's strange. And so the thing I would say is to kind of really make that work, overinvest in the front end of every session. So if you've got a Zoom call for 20 minutes or half an hour, spend the first 5 minutes just checking in with people, and doing that in a very active way, like letting people talk about where they're at and what's going on for them. And you might go, well, this is not the agenda, this is not what we need to be talking about, but actually it is. And there's some research around the fact that if you make that investment in a meeting, so that could be around a table, or it could be on Zoom, the meeting will be shorter for it. It'll be more productive. It'll be clearer if you let people actually check in with one another, turn up properly, and kind of unload some of the distraction that is in their head first. The meetings can be 30-35% shorter. And because meetings are expensive, that's a really good investment.
Yeah. Nick, any observations in that? I mean, like the start of Blackbird, I mean, I often see in the Blackbird Twitter feed just, group shots from everyone around the world where all the Blackbird people are. I mean, what percentage of your meetings do you talk shit at the start before you get into the meeting?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were 12 people at the end of 2019, and we're now 20 people. So we've almost doubled the size of the team in Q1. And some of the new team members have never been to a Blackbird office. So we've been really trying to imagine, can we come out of this experience actually closer than we would have been otherwise? So we flipped our daily all hands to, at the moment, one person per day tells their life story for 15 minutes, which has been honestly profound. I know things now about my colleagues that I just didn't know before, even the partners who I've been working with for 4 years. And so we're thinking about how can we extend that and continue to build that depth. We've started doing Friday trivia so that instead of just being in meetings, we can interact and be casual and relaxed with one another. Joel, who's our creative director, has set up a peers program so that we're making sure that people who don't work together get to spend time together. So I actually think, as a general rule, because startups are generally smaller and are already nimble working off their own laptops, actually the transition for startups to remote has been easier than it would be for KPMG, for example, to put thousands of people remote. So I think we're lucky in a way. Most technology startups are not seeing, not seeing huge productivity drops. So I think the transition, I think it's really, really important to be very mindful about how you build your culture in a remote way. But I actually think there's huge opportunities for actually strengthening your culture, because as someone said earlier, we're all in this together. It's a level playing field. Everyone is home. Yeah. So it's not, you don't have to take people on a journey and get half the company convinced that it's a good idea. Everyone is seeking out that connection. And so, yeah, I feel confident that we'll come out of it in a stronger place than we would have, but it's been a very deliberate effort, and we are investing the team's time in it.
Yeah, and there's a question sort of that was related to that I might just throw in from Stuart Snyder. So do you think remote working will actually replace physical headquarters and this concept of, you know, going to the airport and fanning around and getting a frequent flight?
I think back to how much I was traveling before, and it's probably twice as much as I need to. You know, I think we all just got fast forwarded into a remote working future. You know, what was going to take 5 years happened overnight, effectively in March. And I don't think people will travel as much. Like we've got a board meeting next week, which I would have usually flown up for the board meeting in Sydney. I'm not going to fly up for board meetings anymore. Like it just doesn't, that fly up to Sydney for two meetings just doesn't make sense anymore. I think when everyone has built this muscle to do remote work and to do Zoom calls, and to still be, you know, it's not as good, obviously, but it's pretty close, and it's better than being on a flight.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Anyone else want to touch on that? I mean,
I was just going to say a number of the startups that I'm working with actually say that, in particular, their tech teams are actually more effective and finding remote working far better. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that, but one of them is also when you think about time to actually transit to and from work, for a lot of people, that's like there's a couple of hours perhaps back in their day that they didn't have. So, you know, I think, and a couple of them are also talking about even when we can go back to normal working, that they will be adjusting it so that there are full days for full teams to be at home. And obviously that'll take some coordination, but I think, you know, that just shows that, you know, we really can be effective, and that I think if there's a strong culture and a really good sense of accountability within the team, then, you know, a lot of people really love that autonomy and that ability to actually block out and work through the day the way that they would like to. And having that responsibility and accountability actually, I think, is hugely empowering, and gives you the opportunity to be a great sort of leader as well, and allow people to be the rulers of their own workday.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. All right, look, we've got 5 minutes. I do want to get us done by 9, and I've got a couple of minutes to wrap. So I'm going to ask the last questions to all of you. You know, and if we can do it in under get a response in under a minute, that would be fantastic. And the question is, like, how can founders set themselves up to come out of this stronger than ever? So let me start with Craig.
So when I first met Nick in 2015 in San Francisco, I asked him the question, what's the most important founder skill? And he said, quick as a flash, self-awareness. And I thought then we were going to be really fast friends. And so that's my answer. If you want to set yourself up for success, then start working on your emotional intelligence, because it's a kind of superpower, and it starts with self-awareness, and then being able to manage your emotions well, and motivation, and then how you connect with other people and so on. Those are totally essential skills for being successful as a leader or successful as a human in a startup and being successful in life. So take the opportunity to work on that.
Super quickly, Craig, like, where's a good place to find out about this?
You're setting me up here. So look, I teach a program like this that was developed at Google, tested at Google. It's now taught outside. It's called Search Inside Yourself. If you're interested, go to my personal website, craigdavisnow.com. There's a ton of information there.
All right, awesome. Who's next? Amanda.
Oh God, what?
How can founders come out of this better?
Oh, look, you can't beat Craig's answer. He's always got the best answer. That's exactly right. I was actually at that same meeting in San Francisco when Nick said that. And I think Craig and I have talked about it a lot since then. And I think, combine all the things we've spoken about today, self-awareness, looking after yourself, rituals, make sure you have the right support, all of that sort of stuff from a sort of personal, mental and physical well-being sort of theme. I think then you'd come out of it pretty well. And also the thing is, use this time. For some of us, there's a time of a sense of things have sort of slowed down in some ways. And so for myself, I'm just trying to use that time to look at the way I was doing things before and look at how I want them and how I can make some changes around that. How can I sort of improve some areas? And I think this is a really good time to do that.
Yeah. Nick, they're talking about you here. So was that the right answer? Does that still remain the right answer?
Yeah, absolutely. So we already talked about the building blocks: sleep, mindfulness, exercise, and nutrition, and that ability to look after yourself before you look after others. So I'd absolutely reflect and reinforce the importance of those four. I would say, as well as all your negative scenario planning, the revenue goes to zero plans. I'll echo Blackbird founder and partner Nikki, who says, actually, this might be the best time ever to come up with the positive plan. What is the sunniest version of your business 12 months from now, and how can you start investing in that version of the business? I think everyone has been certainly at a board level. A lot of the conversations are, how do we survive this with revenue going down and no external funding? But I think not forgetting to plan for the sunny day scenario and finding the opportunities to, whether it be refocus the team, refocus the product, find new customers, find new ways of delivering value to customers, get to know your customers better, turn salespeople into customer success people, and whatever it might be, there are huge opportunities for growth. And there's a fundamental reason to be optimistic, which is that we know for sure that we'll come out of this.
Yeah.
And not all crises have that element to them, but this one does, and that gives you the ability to plan for the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it's really important in this sort of haze of negativity that's very real around us now to remember that great things will come from this.
All right, this is good, nice, positive comments coming in here. So Jane, you're going to get the last word here. So any top tips for coming out this better?
Look, mine would probably be, I'm obviously a huge believer in knowing yourself and bettering yourself, but I also think it's about looking after, like saying thank you, and just thinking about other people as well, and not just people at work, but people in the community, and doing things for others. Because I think for me, especially when you're a founder and you're under immense stress, it just becomes all about, or often can become all about you and your issues and your problems. And I think when you just go that bit broader and build your perspective, you actually realize that there's people, that everyone has their own struggles, some much more so than you, and some that don't even relate to business at all. And at the end of the day, it's that human side of our lives that is deeply important, and to stay balanced, I think it really helps. So yeah, I think finding ways every day to say thanks to someone, or send them something, or do something. I've had books sent to me, and really just things that make people's day when they're at home all the time. So think about how you can do that for other people. I think you'll come out a better leader and founder as well.
I might just use that chance. I just got sent a pack which has got chocolate and gin and peanut butter and more chocolate. So it's, that was what the doorbell went a bit earlier for. So that's made me feel good, I gotta say. So
yeah, exactly. And it makes you, like the person who sent it, will feel good because you feel good. So I think that's do that for your staff, do that for your friends and family, and even people that you don't really know that well. It's a good opportunity, and then it just becomes a habit you do once this is all over.
Yeah, look, it's also made me very hungry. So, look, we shall wrap the formal part. So, Jane, Craig, Amanda, Nick, thank you so much. I thought there were some fantastic insights there, and to be honest, I thought some really good positive outcomes. I know it's pretty tough out there right now, but I'm feeling a bit more energized and enthused by that as my dog comes over to sniff my care pack. Let me just finish up with a sort of a couple of announcements. We have in fact, I should probably just mention Startmate demo night is tonight. Is that right, Nick? So tune into that. It's Startmate Reimagined. It's normally a fantastic physical event, but it's going to be virtual, and there's great companies in this year's cohort. So I'm looking forward to that. That's tonight, 6 p.m. I think. 2 more events this week. So if you're looking to get deeper into today's topic, then we've got one tomorrow where Innovation Bay, along with AWS, Rachel Newman's going to be chatting with Dr. Toby Ford about developing frameworks for resilience and performance enhancement for founders. So a bit more insight in terms of what we're talking about today. If you're a fintech company or just interested in fintech, we have Meet X15 Ventures tomorrow morning. We'll be discussing how their new venture builder will be announcing a new initiative called Accelerate. And that's aimed at supporting fintech startups who are building solutions to help SMEs recover from COVID-19. So again, a little bit on this theme too. We mentioned before, we're not doing an event next Wednesday morning. So go and tune into Giants, which is between Blackbird and Startmate. But the week after, we do have Malcolm Turnbull. So that will be live. I'm really looking forward to it. He's such a terrific guy. I mean, he's really passionate about the Australian startup ecosystem. And since he, stepped down from politics, he has been leaning in on that. So a few of the latest, Mariota and one of the other funding announcements, I think it was Safety Culture. Malcolm's name was on the shareholder roster. So he is actively participating in that. So that'll be great. If you've got any other topics or guests you want to hear from, throw your suggestion in at the end. I think it's the last slide, or second last. We have launched a fortnightly news special of our podcast, Open the Pod Bay Doors. We're looking at the stories behind the headlines. We had a great episode, which we recorded on Monday and came out yesterday. We had Paul Napthali from Rampersand, Yolanda Redrup from the AFR, and Rob Lowenthal from Wooshka, which is a podcast provider. He's terrific panel. We covered the week's news and a few other things. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And a new episode of Open the Pod Bay Doors also came out. Faden interviewed Michael Pryor, who is the founder of Trello. So again, some great content coming on there. So check it out. Thank you again to our incredible sponsors, Macquarie Bank, KPMG's High Growth Ventures. Thank you, Amanda, AWS, and Farmark Ventures. All right, let me switch the slides off so we can say goodbye by waving. So look, thanks everyone for joining us. I love doing these. It makes my Wednesday morning. It also makes me realize what day it is, because sometimes it's pretty hard to know what day it is because I just sit in my living room staring at screens all day. So but I'm going to go off and eat my chocolate and maybe drink some gin. I am Ian Gardner. Innovation Bay is here to support you. So anything we can do to help, we want to hear from you. So stay safe, stay strong, stay inside, and we hope to see you all again soon. Thank you.